Today on Time About the Movies, are you ready to kick some ass? That's literally the name of the first movie, is Kick-Ass, with Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Nicolas Cage, Mark Strong, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Chloe Grace Moretz, based off the comic book by Mark Millar. We got that one. We have a remake of a film that came out not too long ago, Death at a Funeral, this time with a huge all-star cast: Chris Rock, Martin Lawrence, Tracy Morgan, James Marsden, Peter Dinklage. How does it compare to the original British version? We'll find out in just a little bit here. But we also have the movie that was made for people who never even heard of The Riches, which is a shame because you should, because it's much better than this. David Duchovny and Demi Moore starring in The Joneses. And also Banksy brings us the documentary Exit Through the Gift Shop. So we come into the middle of April 2010, April 16th to be exact. This is Time About the Movies, coming your way next. Welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the 4 films released on April 16, 2010. Our first movie is, of course, Kick-Ass, which I did not think you could actually use the word ass in the title of a movie. But then again, ass is not just a swear word. It's a term that's literally a term that's used in real life, kind of like with hell in general. Well, like, you know, a donkey is literally a jackass. A jackass is literally a thing. But then again, I probably should have figured that out when we had the Jackass movies, which, again, I probably should have figured it out. But this is Kick-Ass, based off of the graphic novel by Mark Millar and John Romita Jr., in which you have an ordinary teenager played by Aaron Taylor-Johnson who sets out to become a real-life superhero, calling himself Kick-Ass. Dave gets caught up in a bigger fight when he meets Big Daddy, played by Nicolas Cage, a former cop who, in his quest to bring down the crime boss Frank D'Amico, played by Mark Strong, and his son, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, has trained his 11-year-old daughter, Chloe Grace Moretz, to become the ruthless vigilante Hit Girl. And in terms of making a feature-length adaptation of the graphic novel, this is the way to do it. I mean, this is definitely the much better version of a Mark Millar comic book than Wanted was. And I like Wanted, but this is definitely the much superior version. And it helps by having the director of Layer Cake, Matthew Vaughn, who does a pretty good job of bringing the comic book to life on the big screen, creating this visually impressive universe that looks like something straight out of the book itself. And not only that, they got a really good cast involved in here. The names I mentioned: Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Lindsay Finesca, Clark Duke. The two highlights in here really are Nicolas Cage and Chloe Grace Moretz. Like, this is probably the best I've seen Nicolas Cage in a long time. I mean, these movies in particular, they're just, he was making these really bad movies, and here he's back to form. Like, he's back to the way he should have been beforehand. It's just like, why don't you make him more movies like this? Give us more movies like this. Don't give us crap like Next and Knowing and Bangkok Dangerous. And sadly, he went back to doing this as soon as this movie came out. Just like, come on, man, really? But then again, you have a breakout role for Chloe Grace Moretz, who a month ago was in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Kind of underused here, but in this movie, they use her to every advantage possible. She's great playing this badass little girl who can kick so much ass, no pun intended, and beats the crap out of the bad guys in a way that just looks impressive, ahead of its time, and just freaking hilarious, man. Just like, I love this movie, man. The comedy is great. The blending of both action and comedy is top-notch. Everything this movie does, it does the graphic novel its Welsh service. It has a great director involved, a good writer, a good cast, good action, a great comedy, great visual flair. This is a movie that just works on every single level. This is a perfect, solidly put together adaptation. One of the best movies of the year, one of the best comic book adaptations, just top notch. The sequel, on the other hand, we will save that for 2013, but anyway, that's Kick-Ass. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, the ensemble comedy, the remake of Death at a Funeral. Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised. This was an R-rated. This was all R-rated. I thought this was going to be a PG-13 remake, but no, they were able to make it the same rating that they did with the original film. So there's that. But yeah, this is a remake of the 2007 Frank Oz movie, which it feels really weird to do a remake of a British comedy, not but 3 years after the first film came out. I was really kind of like, wow, you guys are making this. You guys are really, really letting this go on. Like you're not even wasting your time getting this out there. But lo and behold, here it is, and pretty much the same plot as the original movie. You have a dysfunctional clan reuniting to mourn the passing of the family patriarch, a respectful funeral quickly turning into an all-out fiasco marked by bitter resentment, blackmail attempts, and scandalous revelations. And literally this has probably one of the most stacked casts you will ever see in a movie. Chris Rock, Keith David, Loretta Devine, Peter Dinklage, Ron Glass, Danny Glover, Regina Hall, Kevin Hart, Martin Lawrence, James Marsden, Tracy Morgan, Zoe Saldana, Columbus Short, Luke Wilson. Just, I've never seen a cast with this much pedigree to it. Like, everybody in here is a recognizable name. Like, there's not a single person where you're just like, oh, it's a one-off character who's just kind of a random character in general. But no, every single name on this list here is somebody that you should be very familiar with. Like, they stacked the cast on this thing. And this comes from Neil LaBute. Neil LaBute had, the last couple movies he did were The Wicker Man and Lakeview Terrace. And this is kind of in that area where he was going more mainstream. And this is easily his best overall mainstream movie, because he did Lakeview Terrace, which, and The Wicker Man, which was complete garbage. But this is definitely the best mainstream film he's done, and it is definitely a movie that is a very flawed comedy. You have a lot of poorly written cliches, like, you know, it's like if you watch the trailer, you see the jokes about Martin Lawrence hitting on a high school girl that get really tiring really fast. There's a really bad shit joke in this that just goes on way too long, involving Tracy Morgan and Danny Glover. Just like, I don't want to see Tracy Morgan get his hand stuck in Roger Martell's ass while in the toilet. Like, come on, man. Like, you didn't even need to do that, man. You just, I mean, Lethal Weapon 2 had probably the best use of Danny Glover in the toilet you could do with it, but that felt like they forced it in there. Like, this is what I was talking about with the original review. It's just like, it felt like the studio was right behind their back saying, oh, can you do this? Because we have to, because this is a mainstream movie, and we need to have gross-out humor, pointless gross-out humor. But with all that said, I did really like this movie a lot. There are a lot of good, strong performances all across the board in here. I thought Chris Rock and Tracy Morgan were really good. You got a lot of great seasoned actors and actresses here. Martin Lawrence, you know, seeing him in a much different role than usual, and it works for him. Regina Hall, Columbus Short, Luke Wilson, Loretta Devine, you know, James Marsden and Peter Dinklage. This is actually interesting that Peter Dinklage appears in this one as well as the original one. Like, they're sort of connected. Like, you could probably tell that this probably takes place in the same universe. Like, both of these movies could be happening at the same time, which I find really kind of interesting here. And this is kind of a movie that makes you realize that Zoe Saldana was on her way to becoming a pretty damn good actress. I thought she nailed it out of the park with this movie in here. Like she really elevates herself to another level with this. And again, you can never go wrong with Danny Glover and Keith David overall. It's a good comedy. I did laugh a lot. It isn't one of the best movies I saw that year. I was actually more surprised at how much I enjoyed it, especially considering after this I watched the original again, and I would definitely say the original is the better film. But in terms of a remake, it's not a bad remake at all. It's a competently made, well done remake. And yeah, that's all you can really ask for it. I think it's very funny. I think it's well done. I think you can watch both of these movies and find a lot of enjoyment value out of both movies in general. But I will say, watch the original first, then watch this one. But either way, you're going to really enjoy both of these ones regardless. So there you go. That's my thoughts on Death and a Funeral. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, which is David Duchovny and Demi Moore in The Joneses.
The Joneses.
The Richest is a show that features Eddie Izzard and Minnie Driver as a couple with three children, and the series begins with Minnie Driver's character just being paroled out of prison, and during her 2-year sentence, she's developed various drug addictions, and you know they basically go down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and steal the identity of a family, and essentially try to start new lives under the new names that they have. And I bring this up because this movie is literally the same plot as that movie. It changes it around a little bit, but it is very much the same premise as this movie that I'm about to talk about here with The Joneses. The Joneses is a social commentary on our consumerist society. We have a perfect couple and their gorgeous teenage children, one of them played by Amber Heard. They're the envy of the posh suburban neighborhood filled with McMansions and all the trappings of the upper middle class. Kate is the ultimate trendsetter, beautiful, sexy, dressed head to toe in designer labels. Steve is the admired, successful businessman who has it all, a gorgeous wife, big house, and an endless supplies of high-tech toys. Jen and Mick rule their new school as they embody all that is hip and trendy, cool clothes, fast cars, and the latest gadgets. But all as the neighbors try to keep up with the Joneses, none are prepared for the truth about this all-too-perfect family. And the truth is, they are literally not really a family. It's literally the same premise that I talked about with The Riches, except The Riches was a much funnier show, a much more enjoyable show, and really was one of those FX shows that came and went sadly, and really should have been something that should have lasted longer, something on the same level of Nip Tuck or The Shield. Like, if you haven't watched The Riches, definitely check it out, but this film in particular, yeah, it's literally the same plot as that, except nowhere near as good. And I like Demi Moore and David Duchovny in here. I think they're doing a good job here. I thought Amber Heard was pretty good in here. You got Gary Cole, you got Lauren Hutton. I mean, there's got a lot of good talent in here, but it's hard not to look at this and not think of the show The Riches. If you've seen The Riches, you definitely know what I'm talking about. This is definitely nowhere near as good as The Riches is, and it's just not worth it in the end. Like, you can get a funny line here every once in a while, but honestly, it just didn't do it for me, especially since I watched The Riches in general. And that's, I know I keep saying that show in particular, but I'm sorry. Like, it's literally the one thing I keep thinking of when I'm watching this. Just kind of like, you guys just ripped off a really good show that only lasted a couple of seasons, but I'd rather watch that again than watch this. But I don't know. That's my personal take on the Joneses, honestly. But hey, it didn't do bad with critics. It did decent numbers overall, but yeah, that's the Joneses for you. So let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here. Banksy, starring in the documentary Exit Through the Gift Shop. This is Exit Through the Gift Shop. It tells the story of Thierry Guetta, I think I'm saying this name right, a French immigrant in Los Angeles who, over several years, filmed a host of street artists at work, including Shepard Fairey and Banksy, but failed to do anything with the footage. Eventually, Banksy decides to use the footage to make a documentary, which includes new footage depicting Guetta's rise to fame as the artist Mr. Brainwash. In addition to narration reads by Reese Evans, the story is largely related to Banksy himself, whose face is obscured and voice altered to preserve his anonymity. Finding you know right there. I don't even need to tell you that. But this is about as much as you think it is with a movie. If you know Banksy's stuff in general, if you know the secrets to street artists and all that, this is pretty much what you expect from a movie like this. And there's been long debates about whether or not this is a film that is basically a genuine documentary or a mockumentary. And when asked if the film was real, Banksy simply said, yes. I think that's all you really need to know about this movie, whether you're going to appreciate it or not. And to be fair, a lot of the stuff they do in this is pretty impressive overall. The artwork is very well done. Granted, it may be illegal, but at the same time, it works because it's a very engrossing documentary about the life of underground artists, and you do get a sense of what their craft is, why they do feel like they need to do this, and it just really works very well in general. And it got nominated for an Oscar for Best Documentary Feature, and it's not hard to see why. It's a very well done, well made film, and I think it is a very interesting take on whether or not you want to believe this is either a hoax or this is a real thing. And I like the fact that they haven't sugarcoated it. And I think it is a very intense and very well-made film in general, and one that should definitely be checked out. It's a very intriguing film, and even with the world today, it's something that is very topical, even by today's standards. But it's a great documentary overall, regardless of whether or not you think it's real or not. Exit Through the Gift Shop, definitely a very good film. And so with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we take a look at 4 movies, including Jennifer Lopez starring in CBS Films' latest film, The Backup Plan, with Alex O'Loughlin, the man that they were really pushing to be the next big superstar. I mean, not only did he have the show Moonlight before this, but they don't know if he was going to be in Hawaii Five-0, but this was them pushing him as the next big thing. And, I mean, Hawaii Five-0 did run for 10 years, but needless to say that I don't think that plan really worked out in general, but we'll take a look at The Backup Plan. We'll take a look at The Losers, a DC Vertigo adaptation, Disney Nature's latest film, Oceans, and a Ryan Reynolds superhero movie you may not be too familiar with Jeff Daniels in it as well, Paperman. So we'll take a look at all 4 of those movies coming up tomorrow on the show, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button, and also don't forget to hit our playlist, as well as check out our previous episode. And stay tuned for Time About the Movies Flashback coming up after I'm done posting this. But in the meantime, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.